Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming to our Sphero session. I will be up front and say we expected about 25 to 30 people, so we are a little bit over that number. Our plan was to do a hands-on session today. We're going to try it, but regardless, you will all program, and then you can come check out your program on a Sphero BOLT later. So today our presentation is on Sphero and computer science across the curriculum. So it's not just computer science, but rather computer science in your English language arts classes and your social studies classes. We'll go through some introductions of the team up here, talk a little bit about who is Sphero and what is Sphero BOLT specifically. How it's currently being used across the curriculum in a district here in Tennessee, as well as doing a quick programming crash course. Quickly, raise of hands who has done block programming before. All right. Great, so then that will be really useful to the majority of you in the class. We'll be recreating an event in history, maybe share that out based on time, and then go through some more cross-curricular examples and hopefully leave time for some Q&A. And if we don't have enough time, you'll be able to find myself and Dustin just right upstairs. So we'll start with introductions. I'm Michelle Ackley. I am the Senior Director of Product and Content at Sphero. So my job is to create the products that go in students' hands. We really connect content and product together because we believe in a content-first approach. Any product that we're making moving forward must have a purpose in education before we actually create it. So we have a curriculum team that is looking at what everyone is doing and trying to figure out how can we help, how can we support, which is where Bolt and then our latest product, Indy, came about. But I will hand the microphone over and let Claire introduce herself.
I'm Claire Williams. McGhee. I'm one of the district lead STEAM coaches. We call ourselves an accidental group of girl power. We're an all-women group here in Metro Nashville Public Schools. And I am here because we started pushing Sphero into our social studies classes and into our ELA classes. And at first, you know, my ELA teachers kind of cocked their head and said, how am I going to use a robot in ELA? So the history lesson activity we taught today, we're going to show you today, is similar to what some of our history teachers and our social studies teachers have been using to teach timelines and events. And when the students put their hands on something that they typically think would be boring, suddenly they start to remember, because now they've got to research the event. They have to research the steps that happened, and then they get to code a robot to recreate it. So you immediately have that hook of, I'm not doing boring research in my social studies class. I have to learn this to do this. And that is what made me excited about the cross-curricular activities that are in sphero.edu. You can go home, back to your schools, and go to the educational portal website and just look at the wealth of things that have been pre-made for you. You just launch it, you just get your students into it, and then they're doing ELA, and then they're doing math, and then they're doing social studies, all with the robot. So you tie STEM completely across your curriculum.
Thanks. So a little bit, who is Sphero? Sphero is transforming the way kids learn in the classroom, the living room, through coding, STEAM, and hopefully fun. Programming can be fun, but sometimes we get the stereotype that it's behind a screen, and that if you're going to be an engineer, you're going to sit behind a computer all day. Well, that's not true. There's so much collaboration in computer science and STEM and engineering, and that's the whole idea with our products, is to encourage engagement. One of our mottos is that we want to make change makers. We want the next generation to really change the way they think, change the way they operate, and really change the world. We have a whole suite of products that really, from pre-K all the way up to university level, but I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that today. We're going to really focus in on Sphero BOLT. Sphero BOLT is a round robot. You can borrow this. And a few things, you might have seen Dustin and I up there just dropping it, super durable. It's not gonna break, and it's packed with sensors. It's packed with an accelerometer, a gyroscope. It has infrared technology, an ambient light sensor, a matrix that you can program, which we will all learn to do today. And all of those things that you can use to engage your students in programming and different STEM concepts, and most importantly, connect to other cross-curricular applications. With Sphero BOLT, it's important that you have a way to program it, and we mostly program that through the Sphero EDU app. The Sphero EDU app works on Chrome, Windows, Apple, Mac, Android, you name it, it works, which all you need is a Bluetooth-enabled device. So no matter what you have, it should work. And then you can program it in 3 ways. Our earliest learners program in a draw-based program, which we can look at today, blocks, and then text, which is JavaScript. But before I talk too much, I'm going to hand it back over to Claire to talk a little bit more on her implementation of Sphero, and then we'll get into our hands-on activity.
So one of our primary goals in Metro Nashville Public Schools for our STEAM initiative is that we look at STEAM not as a singular classroom. We look at it as an approach to learning that bridges curriculum. So to get our schools STEM and STEAM certified with TSIN, you have to connect your curriculums to one another to build project-based learning activities and collaboration for your students and your teachers. So how do we do that? How do we take STEM, that S out of it for a second, because we know that STEM tries to live in our science classrooms. So instead, when I started working with my schools for STEM certification, I spent a lot of time in ELA and looking at what is ELA doing and where can we plug something in that's computer science focused. Let's look at social studies and where can we plug something in. So we tried lots of things. We tried getting on Scratch. And if you've ever been on Scratch, that's kind of bulky for a social studies teacher to attempt to learn and teach. And then one day I was actually just talking to Dustin, and he reminded me of all of the extra things about 1.5 years ago during COVID that were available to students. So we started pulling social studies lessons. We started pulling how to make a map, how to transverse a map. We started looking at the art integration using Sphero into a social studies class, like it does have a matrix on the top of it. Calm down. It does have a LED matrix on the top of it. Your students can code pictures. So let's say today you're going to work with the Titanic. They could absolutely code a tiny LED representation of the Titanic. So you've hit now a pixel art that is part of their arts classrooms. And we actually got art teachers to help make a pixelated pre-drawing for our students and learn about how pixelated drawings work in our middle schools. And the teachers were able to do the little LED picture on the top of it. So then our social studies teacher could be like, oh, look, we made a compass rose that was in all of our Spheros. So when the students had to then start navigating and programming their Sphero to go through maps and learn how neighborhoods work, how you would design neighborhoods, how you would have traversed, across the country, dodging obstacles. They got to have little compass roses, or I'm going to age myself, Oregon Trail. Okay, good, I'm glad. So you all understand my pain. Well, we had a kid who decided that he really needed the little Oregon Trail horse. So he tried very hard to make a horse. I'm not quite sure that I ever saw that as a horse, but you look at clouds and you see funny things all the time. So we really kind of used the Sphero to launch a lot of our project-based learning activities, because then the kids had meaning and they had art and they had interest when jumping into phenomenon and that real world problem of this has happened here. I've done all my research about how it's happened because I had to code this little robot I get to play with now in social studies instead of reading a book. And they were able to take that and apply it in a completely new and novel way to them. So when they got to the project-based learning part that's required for STEM certification here in Tennessee through TSIM, they were much more interested. And then how could they take the Sphero to help solve a new problem and demonstrate solving a new problem? There are all kinds of great things you can do with the Sphero. They built cardboard representations around it for ships. They built cardboard representations around it for cars, and it will still roll. You can put a little cardboard model around it and still drive it around, still code it around. It'll still go with that around it. So they really got into actually designing more than just playing.
All right, why don't we actually get started? So I'm going to actually be in the back of the room since it's where my computer is. So no one has to stare at me anymore. We're going to do a little programming crash course. And now it's going to be weird because I can hear myself echo. So go ahead and if you downloaded the Sphero EDU app, go ahead and open it up. And if you did not download it, go ahead and find a partner, maybe someone next to you went ahead and downloaded it. And my app is on my MacBook. As I mentioned before, it works on a ton of different platforms. It might look slightly different on which platform you're on, but generally, it works the same. On the bottom, since most of you have a phone, you can go ahead and just click Let's Code. We don't need to create an account today. If you get any sort of notification, just hit OK. Swipe them away. And then on the bottom, you're going to see something that says Program. My program is over here on the left side, but yours should be at the bottom. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, you're going to see a plus sign. Click that plus sign. And we're going to create our first program. It is definitely hard to see here from the back. And we are going to make sure you can name your program whatever you want. You can say my first program, or you can just type hi. That's what I did, even though I can't even see it from back here. You will make sure you click blocks and that Sphero BOLT is highlighted. You'll notice a few things as hopefully everyone's catching up. We have our draw program, blocks, text, and there's a virtual robot that maybe we'll look at in a little bit. And then all of our different robot types. But we're going to do Sphero BOLT today. So I'm going to repeat, make sure everyone's followed along. Go to program and then the plus sign. And go ahead and hit create. You do not need to connect to a robot yet. Some of them might make you connect to a robot, but don't worry about connecting to a robot yet. We can actually swipe that away. All right, once you get to your first programming screen, some of you for your first program might already have some blocks in there. It's kind of a first initial program. I want you to, and it might look something like this, where it's connected to the OnStart program. Go ahead and tap on that and move it over to the side. You can take all of those blocks and move it over to the side. All right, when I first teach how to use our block program, we look at the bottom. Look at all the bottom categories. We have movement, which is movement, makes the robot move. All of those blocks associated with it are movement blocks, whether it's roll, spin, gives it a specific heading. The raw motor is super fun that we can try out maybe later. Then we have lights, sound, and then controls. We're not going to get much any further than that today because we're doing a crash course in programming. The first block I want you to drag up is the roll block. We use roll blocks for Sphero because it rolls. If you tap on the first input, it says 0. When you tap on that, that's going to give us our heading. Sphero is a ball. It can roll 360 degrees in any direction. For this, we just want it to roll forward, so we're going to leave it at 0. But if you wanted to move it, you can drag that arrow around, or you can tap on the number and you can type in a heading as well. I think we have some people going ahead. The next input is our speed. The speed goes from 0 all the way up to 255. No, it does not go 255 miles an hour. It is a binary number. We typically like to keep it pretty low, below 100. And then for how long? So now it's going a heading of 0 degrees. Mine is a speed of 99. And for how many seconds? I'm going to say 1 second because we don't have a ton of room in this room. All right, so not everyone has a robot. We literally only have 15 robots. So there's about 1 per table. I'm trying to figure out how we can do this. When I hit start, robots are going to pop up. Those of you with a robot will hold it close to your device. And the one closest to it, you can select. But if you don't have a robot, please do not select a robot. You'll take it away. Dustin, there's another mic.
Hello? And it's on. So what we did was the opposite of what you'll be doing in your classroom as far as distribution of robots. This isn't good modeling. What we typically do in the classroom is you have your students grab their device, come on up to the set of robots, they'll click on a robot, it'll light up, and that'll be the robot that they bring back to their desk. So you don't have people crossing robots across the room connecting to Susan's robot in the back corner. So eventually, we call it the Harry Potter method. So the wand selects the student, they take their robot, and they'll go back.
All right. Now that we know our basic roll blocks, if I wanted to make it turn, what would I do? What's the next thing? So if I rolled forward, how would I make it turn? Anyone? You could spin, and then it would spin. Roll. We would do another roll block. And what if it was going forward and I wanted to go to it right? How many degrees? 90 degrees. And I would drag another roll block, and I would have it go 90 degrees to the right. And if I wanted it to travel the same distance, I would make the speed the same. I can always tap on the number. If you're sharing, make sure you disconnect from your robot. There you go. All right. All right, while you're waiting to get a robot possibly in your hand, we're going to learn how to do some matrix animations as well. So everyone click on the lights category. And at the end, you're going to see a matrix animation block. The matrix animation block, this is how we're going to make those designs Claire talked about. In that black square, tap on the black square, and your matrix animator is going to pop open. So everyone can do this without a robot, which is fun. At the bottom, you're going to see some pre-made animations that you can select, or we can create our own. And you can create your own by hitting the plus button. And now you can see we have our 8x8 matrix here. When it's black, that means there's no light. We can choose any of the colors. And maybe if I choose yellow, and then you can tap on the pixels to make your own animation as I am trying to make a smiley face. Now, if I want to animate that, just like a cartoon, I want small movements. The first thing you're going to do in the bottom right, it's right above the green, you're going to see a little button. That is the duplicate button. So now I have two of the same. And if I want to move it, so if I want to animate it, I might want to move it slightly to the right. You're going to see the arrow, and I can move my animation slightly to the right. I can duplicate the frame again, and I can shift it again. So when I cycle through it, I see my animation, and that's what I would see on my matrix when I connected. And once you hit the check mark, it goes into your program. I'm going to walk around and see how we're all doing. I like that people are trying new things. Okay. If you haven't created the matrix animation, I highly encourage you to try that. It will always save your animation within your program, so if you want to repeat that animation again, you can always reselect it. All right. That. What do I do with the clicker? All right. All right, now that you have had the shortest programming crash course in history and probably the worst course I've ever taught in my life, we're going to go through a real example. Specifically, so one of the few things that I've noticed in classrooms that when we can bring out a hands-on activity for something we're trying to teach, it really brings those concepts to life. And that's what we're trying to do here. So originally this task was going to be recreating an event in history. Since we have much more than 30 of you, it's not going to go quite as planned, but I'm going to share a little bit about it and give you an opportunity to talk about how you would program this. So this is one activity that is within the Sphero EDU app called Titanic Timeline. So it's how you can use programming to illustrate historical timelines. We can use functions. Today we're not going to use functions though. To call on several times to recreate this historical tragedy of the Titanic. We have a list of objectives here. So originally, you're going to be assigned groups, and each of you are going to be programmed a specific time point in for the sinking of the Titanic, and your robot was going to actually illustrate that, and then we would put it all together to recreate that specific timeline. Within your group, I would ask you to first write out what we call pseudocode, which is just illustrating in words what you want your code to do. So for example, if your group was 11:40 p.m., the Titanic strikes the iceberg. The goal would be to program your bolt to represent that point. So maybe I would use a scrolling text block that says 11:40 p.m. I would use a roll block to roll my bolt really fast into a wall. Then I might use some sort of lights. I didn't want to give it all away. Some sounds. There are, I think, 350 different sounds. And then a speak block that says, "We've struck an iceberg." So here's an example of what you might use, but then you might want to make it more interesting than that. So what I want you to do with your neighbor is I want you to pick one of the 5 activities, pick a certain time, come up with a plan for your program, and then try to program it. Okay?
And if you're looking for these blocks, just go to the colors, the color, you'll be able to find these blocks pretty easily once you click on that specific.
This is
color.
lights, this is sound. So with your neighbor, pick a time and try to plan out your code.
I want to point out, for those of you looking at TSIN certification, engineering design process. Make a plan, execute the plan, redo the plan based on what you learned about the first execution. It applies for engineering design process, what you're doing right now.
All right, I'll walk around and see if you need help, and hopefully everyone's participating. All right. Can I have everyone's attention, please?
Have you guys been sharing robots with your row?
I know. Here's an example of what I might give to my students. I might give them a storyboard, and then within that storyboard, before I even give them the robots, as you can see, it's so easy to get distracted, right? How many sounds did you push alone? Now imagine if you were 9, that it would take a while. So here, each one, as you'll notice, we put scrolling text to see the next event. And then we did things like lights, roll blocks, boat horn sound, speak blocks of what's happening. And here you could have a group do every single one of those events, or you could separate it, kind of like what we did here, depending on how much time you had. And I can guarantee you, if they spend a day working on this, they're going to remember each separate event, because they spent a lot of time animating it and thinking about what happened and showcasing that. So this is something, what it might look like if a student did that work. And then they could present it to the class, where each group presented the different time, or they could present it all at once and showcase it and film it and show you. We're not going to share out today just because, unfortunately, we did not have enough robots for everyone to share. But the program saves on your phone. So if you get an opportunity, you can come see us, and we're happy to run it on one of our bolts. There are plenty of other activities that we have. One of our favorites is called What a Character, where students get to create their own stories on using Sphero. And what I would like to do is show a quick video on students creating a story and what this looks like. And during this, they learn things. I'll get to it in a minute. They learn things about personification or story arc, and they create their own story. So this is actually a group of students in Iceland who created recreated a Harry Potter story using Sphero BOLT.
Oh, welcome to another Do-It-Yourself Thursday Learn Day. This week, a great Thursday Learn Day from Iceland. Let's see what they made.
Ég heiti Muggur. Ég heiti Einar. Og þetta Thursday Learn Day. Við erum að gera svona leikrit, eða við erum að recreata leikrit, eða mynd.
Sorry if you can't see it in the back.
Hérna erum við með Harry Potter, Hagrid, Ron og Hermione, sem við bjögum til bara úr plasti og alls konar fyllt í plast, glösum. Og svo fórum við bara inn í Sphero appið og við forrituðum leiðina sem við ætlum að láta það fara. Og svo gerðum við speak og allt það, þannig að Siri tala bara fyrir okkur, og svo tökum við það upp, svo erum við með grænskjá sem við og svo bara setjum við mynd inn á grænskjáinn svo þetta lítur aðeins meira út eins og Hogwarts. Þetta Ron og þetta Hermione. Við erum búin til nýja mynd. Já. Og setjum myndina sem við ætlum að... Við fundum bara mynd af Hogwarts á netinu. Sem við ætlum að nota. Svo setjum við bara myndavélina. Kveikjum henni, snúum henni við og þá var það svona. Og við stilltum áðan upp hvað við ætlum að hafa þetta. Við erum búin að eyða 2 dögum í þetta, bara að forrita og stilla upp og sjá hvað allir eru. Og bara að reyna að gera þetta eins flott að þetta
Wingardium Leviosa. Stop, 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 you are going to take someone's eye out. Besides, you are saying it wrong, it's Wingardium Leviosa, not Levosa. You do it, then go on. Go on, Wingardium Leviosa.
And that's that. Þetta var Harry Potter Thirsty Landið okkar. Ef þú vilt sjá fleiri Thirsty Landið, hérna uppi.
So you can see here something as simple as Harry Potter, but take The Grapes of Wrath or some other book that you might be reading in one of your language arts classes and having the students recreate a scene. If you probably were not able to see it back, but they spent 2 days programming, making costumes, writing the script, and then recreating it. So it's a way to bring that computer science element into your language arts or your history classes. This is another one I'm not going to show you, but it's about he recreated the Three Little Pigs. So even for our youngest learners, creating something even a little more simple with a roll block, just from stopping from one to the next. So now I wanted to just share a few examples that we have within Sphero EDU that you can find, which are in the app that you saw today. We have a whole unit on storytelling, starting with this blue one, which is our basic blocks, all the way up to an introduction to JavaScript, which is called Shakespearean Smackdown, where they find insults from Shakespeare, and the bolt gives a Shakespearean insult, or things as simple as a conversation in Spanish. And each of these are to show and illustrate different ways that you can use computer science across the curriculum. And here are some other ones that I also wanted to highlight from, we have Avoid the Minotaur or Chariot Challenge. You're starting to teach ancient Greece. We have Around the World in 60 Minutes. It's about Sphero traveling across the globe. Ocean Food Webs, Ugandan Water, and it's about building a pulley system and understanding how they get water in Uganda. Flags Around the World, if it's the Olympics or the World Cup, they can program their matrix to be a different flag, and you can do a parade. Lots of different examples that we just have that we have created at Sphero that are in the app, but also within the Sphero EDU app, you can find activities that teachers have submitted as well. So it's a collaboration and a community and not just us here at Sphero. All right, so I took my 90-minute presentation and brought it down to 45. I think it was even only 40. So I want to leave this time for any questions that you might have. I'm that good, right? Well, if you want to contact us, you have any questions, please, you can check out our products at sphero.com. You can find activities at edu.sphero.com or in the app you downloaded. You can email Dustin here. He's around Tennessee a lot, so he's more than happy to help. And then, follow us on Twitter. There's educators who are sharing stuff out in their activities all the time on that specific hashtag.
Twitter's really fun to follow. There's so much stuff that comes through. People share stuff to us all the time. It's just fun to see what's getting created.
All right. Well, if you have a bolt, please bring it back up. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Thanks.